fact, I totally agree that every company ultimately counts on having the right set of salespeople at the helm. And you mentioned this technique. Do you think this method has changed in the past 1 year, especially during the pandemic? What kind of effect does the pandemic has had?
Yeah, it really hasn't changed a lot, except that we know because we've worked with so many people on this data that not everyone can do well remotely in a remote role. Some people do better in person. Part of the sales team or the managers watching to make sure they're doing everything, and so it's really important for people to know of all the salespeople on their team who can work well remotely and who maybe needs a lot more um, over messaging, just more communication, more face to face, virtual meetings and check-ins and support, because it does vary. So I've been working remote for ever since I started my company, and I've learned ways to motivate myself and to get things done. um, People don't inherently know that, and you really have to be taught. So it's a combination of managers and leaders teaching everybody how to be more productive remotely, and then holding people accountable, and for the reps themselves to be coachable and have that will to sell, that they want to sell and they want to be successful, and so they're going to be more successful that way.
There was one question that I've always had. Do you think the time is ripe for universities around the world to roll out proper sales degrees and courses?
Well, interestingly, there are more degrees now in the United States. I am part of the Sales Education Foundation. I became a board member last year, and there are many programs. People used to think that there were just a handful, but there are many that, and in fact, the Sales Education Foundation puts out a PDF, a great big PDF document that shows all the schools and all the different programs that are in place. So I would say now more than ever, there are really wonderful programs that are going on, and of course, a lot more virtual programs now since the pandemic. So people can learn remotely in many of them. I don't know how many will change back fully, but I do know it's a great opportunity for people to look at what the different colleges and universities are doing, and and I think it's really helpful because so many, at least here in America, so many graduates start out in a sales job, even if it has nothing to do with their degree. So it makes sense to take a sales class or two, if nothing else, if you have that opportunity.
And do you think social media platforms can help in good recruitment and sales training?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know. I've seen people, especially in the case when a company is really looking for more female candidates for sales roles. I've seen them share on LinkedIn. When a company, when one of the leaders states that they really want a more inclusive sales team, and that they're not getting enough candidates, and they put out an honest, genuine post on LinkedIn to say, if anybody has any suggestions or ideas, here's our job description. Please send anyone our way. I've seen people get jobs that way, and I've seen people connect because LinkedIn is such a huge platform, and if enough people share, if you get a few people to share, like I often will share that type of a post, and then they suddenly have more candidates. But I also think people need to be creative and look in different places than they looked before for good candidates. But certainly through social media, absolutely a good way to get the word out.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'm going to go back to promoting women in sales, and I wanted to ask you, how can we promote or nurture women to become good sales leaders? Because there are very few women who we see at positions like head of sales, VP sales. So how can we nurture them in order to become good sales leaders?
The the first thing is that male leaders need to understand that most women won't step up and offer, I want to run that new position. I want to apply for this next step. Many women won't do that if they feel like they don't match up 100% with the job offering. They won't raise their hand, and that's not because of a lack of confidence. It I saw some research that showed it was pretty much because a woman will figure, I don't have all the attributes they're looking for anyway. I don't want to waste their time or my time. And so it's not because, oh, I don't know if I'll get it or not. It's just like I don't meet all the, all the requirements, so why apply? So one thing that people can do is just put the basic minimum that you want this person to accomplish in a leadership role, and don't put 100 things, don't put 50 things. Start with, if you could get a great person in that role, what is the bulk of what they're going to do, and that will attract more women in and of itself. The other thing is that sometimes you might need to encourage someone to say, I think you're perfect for this role. I'd love for you to apply. I know you can do it. We'll help support you if in fact, it works out. And that just helps women. It just helps more female candidates. Doing those two things can help get more women into leadership positions, which, VP sales and higher, the last Gartner survey that I saw showed that it's still a very flat number at about, I think, 12 or 14% of all VP sales, VPs of sales and higher, CRO, etc. Um, a very small amount, 14 or 12%, are women, and that's been a flat number for over a dozen years.
Okay, that is very very insightful, Lori. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. And before we close, I would request you to share some tips for all the salesters out there, who are trying to sail over the current difficult times.
So, some top tips. I would say, first of all, know what your personal brand is. Everyone has a brand, whether you realize it or not, whether you've worked on it or not. So think about building your brand a little bit every week, um, every month. Just you can do it certainly through a platform like LinkedIn. I mean, that's probably the best place where you can just share your learnings, or share other people's insights. You don't have to come up with creative ideas on your own. You can just find what's really helpful to you and share that, particularly women, because I find that a lot of women are lurkers on LinkedIn. So they're reading, but they're not posting anything for various reasons. And I understand some of those reasons, but I would encourage people to build your brand and your reputation outside of your company, because it will just help you. One day, something happens where you work through no fault of your own. You need to have your brand. It's you incorporated, and you need to be thinking about that every month, not just diving into the work that you're doing in this moment, but really thinking ahead, thinking down the road. And the other thing is to focus on your mindset, because we have a lot of messages that go on in our heads every day, and many of them are negative and many of them are repetitive. And if you can focus on supportive beliefs that take you further toward your goals, you will be much more effective and happier. And I know that while we're recording this, it's May and it's Mental Health Month. in at least here. I don't know if it is worldwide, but there's a lot of people who through the pandemic have had, challenges, and it's been a tough time mentally for many of us. So it's important to take good care of your mental health, and build your brand, and do work that makes you happy.
Yeah, do work that makes you happy. I think that is the most important key takeaway. So thank you so much, Lori, for coming on Salesters, and your absolutely great pieces of advice. I already have so many key takeaways. And for everyone watching us right now, please like, share, and subscribe, and then head back to salesters.com for more content only on sales. Thank you and goodbye.